All right. So since this session is going to be recorded, I think I'll begin on time. Yeah. Okay. Someone needs to be silent here. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I wanted this to be an orientation class on just a minute. Yeah. So I wanted this to be an orientation class on Kala Sarpa. Okay. And it has been a long time since I wanted to take up this topic, because this is a topic which is very, very close to my heart. Okay. And what interests me in this topic is there is no classical mention of anything, in the scriptures. Okay. There is no mention of Kala Sarpa anywhere in the scriptures. Okay. So what it does is it leads to many astrologers calling this out, saying that this is fake, this is a money making technique, or this is a money minting technique, and so on. It may be fair, it may be a money minting technique for a few, you know for a few people, okay, who have made use of this yoga to to scare clients. Okay. To Just a minute, there is a disturbance out here, just hold on. Yeah. So this, of course, may be a scare tactic by by some people with vested interests. But although the Kala Sarpa, along with Manglik dosha, has been used as a resort to scare people by most astrologers, that does not mean it does not exist. Okay. So I just wanted to speak on this topic, and also announce a master class on Kala Sarpa. Okay. So it'll be free for everyone to join. That is not a problem. But I wanted to, have this orientation class to actually know about the number of people who believe that, such a thing called Kala Sarpa does not exist. Okay. So we'll start from, this session on Kala Sarpa. It'll be a 20 or 25 class session. It'll start from I forgot the date. Just hold on. Yeah, it'll start from the 8th of October. Okay, that is the date I have decided. And it'll happen every Saturday from 8 p.m. Okay, so it has been a long time since I have not taken a class on Saturday at 8 o'clock. Okay, it was a regular affair just a few months ago. But again, due to some professional commitments, I have not been able to take up the class. Okay, so I just wanted to, know how many people actually believe that Kala Sarpa does not exist, or there is nothing called Kala Sarpa, and then I'll give my arguments. Okay. So anyone, if if you want to know anything specific regarding Kala Sarpa, you can type your comments in the chat box. Otherwise, I can begin my lecture. All right, then let me begin. Yeah. So this word Kala Sarpa, it actually has quite a formidable reputation in Vedic astrology. Okay. And some astrology texts, from some ancient astrology texts from South India, they have declared Kala Sarpa as the ultimate power yoga. Okay. They say that Kala Sarpa has the ability, or has the power, to make someone a king. Okay, assuming that the person survives long enough to to assume that responsibility. Okay. But then, like most elements of Vedic astrology, Kala Sarpa is a very complex subject. Okay. Like the like the snake like how all snakes remain hidden from plain sight, so Kala Sarpa also remains hidden from sight most of the time. Okay, and when it does appear in a chart, it typically, it incites fear and foreboding in either the native or the interpreter of the chart. Okay, there are some astrologers who, who don't mention about Kala Sarpa at all while interpreting charts because they have a fear that they may be, they may be taken wrong. Okay, they may acquire a wrong reputation if they mention Kala Sarpa. And some clients, they go to the astrologer knowing that they have a Kala Sarpa, but when the time for consultation comes, or when the astrologer is giving out his readings, giving out his or her readings, that is, they don't actually mention Kala Sarpa. Okay, maybe they have some fear, or maybe they have some, they are waiting, they wait for the astrologer to mention it themselves. Okay, so in either case, it typically incites some kind of fear. Okay, in in either the native or the astrologer. All right, but then, you know anyone who is familiar with snakes, or anyone who is familiar with how snakes are catched, they will know that, snakes can be tamed to a certain extent and for mundane purpose. Okay, for example, India has been a place for snake charmers to entertain tourists. Yes, or if you go to any ancient temple of India, you'll always see snakes crawling around the walls and ceilings of the temple because, because of the spiritual energies of those places. Okay, so the snake forms a very important object of devotion in the sadhana by any individual. Yeah, and this course on this masterclass rather on Kala Sarpa is actually intended to, to throw some light on the mystery of Kala Sarpa. Okay, and in the process, I also want to discuss the, the many-folded aspects of Rahu and Ketu. Yeah, so many astrologers, although they do astrology, they don't know how to interpret Rahu and Ketu in the chart. Yeah, so, and if the astrologer is not doing his or her sadhana on a daily basis, the nodes actually have a capability of, of eclipsing the mind of the astrologer. Okay, so it's very, very important that, you understand Kala Sarpa, and also have a understanding of how the nodes operate in any chart. Okay, all right, so if I have to define Kala Sarpa, it can be generally defined as occurring when, all of the planets lie within one half of the chart as delineated by the, by the Rahu Ketu axis. Okay, so the Rahu Ketu axis is also known as the nodal axis, and Rahu, of course, is known as the north node of the moon, and some people will also call it the north ascending node, while Ketu is known as the south descending node. Okay, so this is a very general definition. Yeah, this is a very general definition of Kala Sarpa. If, if all the planets get sandwiched on one half of the chart, separated by the Rahu Ketu axis, it is said to be Kala Sarpa. But as we examine this configuration a little more closely, things can get a bit more complicated. Okay, now there are certain there are certain theories as to how this Kala Sarpa gets broken. Okay, there are certain theories as to how, the Kala Sarpa can get broken. Okay, for example, some people say that Kala Sarpa does not show any effect if any planet occupies the same sign as that of the nodes. Okay, for example, if any planet is with Rahu or Ketu, then the Kala Sarpa yoga does not show much effect. Okay. Other astrologers will say that, Kala Sarpa can become null and void as soon as any planet goes beyond the degrees of Rahu and Ketu. Okay, so for example, say, Rahu is in the chart at 19 degrees, and then say some planet has gone has joined Rahu and it is at, say, 20 degrees or maybe 19.5 degrees. In that case also, some people say that, Kala Sarpa does not show any kind of bad effect. Okay, so this is something that, that is prevalent. These theories are actually prevalent. And now the point being, other theories include that if any planet is situated in the first house or in the second house, then sorry, or in the seventh house, then also the Kala, the effect of Kala Sarpa is not seen in the chart of the native. Okay. Now, for those who who have a who have an understanding of the basic concepts of quantum theory, if you remember, there is always this heated debate where where the question is whether photons or light photons, they behave as particles or waves. Yeah. And finally, what happened is the final ruling on the argument was that light can act both as a particle and a wave, and it is a well accepted theory. Okay. But then, I'll not discuss all the combinations of Kala Sarpa right now in this beginning class, but just keeping it simple for everyone's sake, I'll just say that the broadest possible definition is when all of the planets are contained within half of the chart as demarcated by the nodal axis. That means by Rahu and Ketu. Okay. So other variations I will discuss as we begin with the classes. Okay. Now, some people may say that Kala Sarpa or pure Kala Sarpa is a very rare occurrence. Okay, it's a very rare occurrence. So, it should not interest us much. But then, if you go through the works of astrologers like, say, Dr. Arjun Pai, or, even if you go through the works of, I've forgotten his name. Who was that? EKDK, he is known as EKDK. Okay, so he's a South Indian astrologer. He says that, around 12.5% of the clients who came to, who come for an analysis, they reveal some kind of Kala Sarpa under this broad definition that I've given. Okay, so if you look at the statistics, even K.N. Rao is of the opinion that, 1 out of every 8 people in the world have this pattern of Kala Sarpa. Okay. So statistically, what I'm trying to say is that this Kala Sarpa yoga is as common as the Dharma Karma Adhipati yoga or the Pancha Mahapurusha yogas, which are actually mentioned in the Shastras. Okay. Now just let's get to the literal meaning of the term Kala Sarpa. Kala Sarpa, if you translate, this is of course a Sanskrit word, but if you translate it from Sanskrit, it actually means black snake or serpent of time. Okay, black snake or serpent of time. But then if you look at the word Kala, this word Kala, it actually comes from the root word Kaal. Okay, and Kaal has several associations. Okay, Kaal has several associations, and the most important, the most common interpretation of Kaal is time. Okay, it's time. It is also death. Okay, it is also death. And the main reason why the scriptures say that our existence is filled with suffering is because it is temporary. Okay. If you look at it, time is seen as the great enemy of all living beings. Yes. So in the Yoga Vashishta, that means where the book where Vashishta is having a series of conversations with Sri Ramchandra, Vashishta Muni, he compares time to a potter who is continually turning his wheel and producing innumerable pots by that activity. But then, that potter who produces innumerable pots only smashes those pots whenever he feels like it. Yeah. And if I take a deep dive into the scriptures, the, Mahabharata, the scripture of Mahabharata, it refers to Kala in, in 2 different ways. Okay. So it says that time pulls along all creatures, even the gods, and there is no one dear to time, no hateful, none hateful. So this verse also appears in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that I am time, and since I am time, I don't have any friends, neither do I have any kind of enemies. Okay, so this is there in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. Okay. Next, the other reference to time that Mahabharata gives is that time cooks all things. Okay, time destroys all creatures, and when all is asleep, time is awake. So time is obviously hard to overcome, and this is very, very obvious, isn't it? Time is never sleep. Time never sleeps. So what I'm trying to say is that the word kala, it may be used to, to denote several different things. Okay. Kala you may refer to kala as destiny or fate. Okay. It refers to that aspect of time which leads to events, and maybe the causes of those events, they are not known to the human mind. Okay. It also refers to death. Yes. Because, time is the destroyer of all things. Time destroys all things, right? And how is death personified in dharma? It is identified with Yama, who is the who is the lord of the death, who is the lord of the dead, basically. And then time also has a link or a connection to the planet Saturn. Okay, because Saturn, as the son of Surya Narayan, Saturn is said to be the lord of time, and he is the only planet who can actually give us a right understanding of time. Okay. And some texts like Phaladipika, it refers to time having black or dark blue color. Again, if you look at astrology, black color is related to Saturn, and dark blue color is actually related to Rahu, who is said to be a mirror image of Saturn. Okay. Now coming to the word sarpa, sarpa means serpent. Okay, sarpa means serpent, and sarpa usually refers to the to the black snake, which is the king cobra, which is the most venomous of all the indigenous snakes found in India. Yes. And if you look at the statistics, snakes are responsible for almost 45,000 deaths annually in India. Yes. They like to live near humans. Okay, they live typically in rice paddies and under the ground, and they can actually grow to more than 5 feet long in India. Yes. And Indians always have a love-hate relationship with snakes. Some people fear them a lot, some people revere them a lot. Okay, snakes are considered to be they are considered to be a symbol for spiritual awakening. Yes. And ironically, this is a prevalent belief that it is a sin to kill snakes, which are widely worshipped in India. Okay. In fact, in India, many misfortunes in life are attributed to ancestors having killed snakes. Okay. And, if there is a Sarpa Badha in the horoscope, you actually need to do some kind of remedies before you can achieve your desires. Okay. For example, you may want to have a child, but suppose there is Sarpa Badha, you need to do a lot of appropriate remedies to obtain to obtain a child if you have sarpabadha. So sarpabadha essentially means that some ancestor of yours killed a snake, and that ancestor, and that is causing problems to to manifest in your life. Okay. Now, as I said, kala sarpa is not discussed in any of the traditional books of Vedic astrology. Okay. It finds no mention in the BPHS. It is not mentioned in Jataka Parijata. It is not mentioned in Phaladipika. It is not mentioned in Uttara Kalamrita. Okay. And because it is not mentioned, so the critics of Kala Sarpa, they use this as a justification to say that it has no meaning on any horoscopic interpretation. Okay. But then if you ask me, there are many other patterns in horoscope analysis which are very well used by these modern day astrologers who deny Kala Sarpa, right? And those techniques of reading horoscopes, they are also not mentioned in any shastra. But then these astrologers, they use these techniques to to a great degree of success. Yes. So you you must ask this question. Yes, why is this aversion to Kala Sarpa? Is it because it is not mentioned in the scriptures, or is it because it is not it is not documented? Or is it because it is there is very little understanding of this great yoga? Okay. So if you search the logic for this aversion, if you search the logic for this aversion as to why many astrologers deny the existence of Kala Sarpa, a logical explanation may lie in the mode of instruction, which is very, very obvious to the to the Indian way of learning things, right? So we know that the Vedas, they were not written down; they were just transmitted from from one generation to the other orally. Yes. And it was a very, at the time of the Vedas, a very prominent pedagogical model was prevalent in India, and it was based on just three elements: Guru, Shishya, and Shastra. Okay, so Guru refers to the teacher, Shishya refers to the student, and Shastra refers to the scripture. Okay, so in case of Shastra, in the Vedic times, nothing was written down. As I said, it was just things were just transmitted orally. Okay, and within these oral transmissions, the body of knowledge that was supposed to be passed on from one generation to the other, this body was contained within a series of shlokas or verses that were meant to be recited and and committed to memory. Okay, it is the same technique that Muslims use to memorize the Quran. Okay, of course the Quran is written down, but they also make it a point to create a generation of individuals who have memorized the Quran so that it can be passed on to the next generation without any adulteration or without any alteration. Okay, but then when we speak about shlokas, right, when we speak about shlokas, these shlokas had to be decoded by a teacher. There had to be some guru who would explain you the meaning of these shlokas. Okay, and without a guru, the information that was contained in the shlokas, it would remain largely impenetrable. Okay, and Sanskrit is a Sandhya Bhasha. The word Sandhya means double meaning. Okay, it always has double meanings. Okay, for example, the word go actually in Sanskrit it means cow, but the other meaning for go is fast motion. Okay, similarly, the word Sandhya in Sanskrit it actually means the time of evening, but in there is another meaning to it. It means a dual interpretation language. Okay, dual interpreted. Yes, so the interpretation had to be done by the by the teacher, by the guru, who belonged to a certain tradition or a parampara. Okay, and this parampara was responsible for transmitting the chain of oral transmission from one teacher to the student. Yes, so within such a tradition, what happened was, the texts that were written, they were only meant to serve as help to the memory. Okay, while the real jewels of knowledge, they remained only in the memory of the teacher, and then the teacher passed it on to those students, and those students actually passed it on to their students. So this was the model that was followed in India. Okay, so who knows, maybe, just maybe, I'm just making an assumption here, maybe Kala Sarpa was there in the oral traditions, but as things started getting written down, maybe it never, the information or the knowledge on Kala Sarpa never came out in public domain. Maybe it was meant for an exclusive group of people who never wanted this to be out in the public domain, and hence it was not written down in the Vedic literature. Who knows? Yeah. Now, given the fascination of Indians with tantra, with shadows, with time, with snakes, with the occult, I am most certain that Kala Sarpa is tantric in origin. Okay, so maybe it's a part of tantric jyotish as well. We don't know. Yes, just a minute. Yeah, so as I was saying, Kala Sarpa is most certainly tantric in nature, in origin, basically, and this is what my guru has told me. Okay, and of course, although Kala Sarpa is not mentioned in the traditional texts of Vedic astrology, it is described in some Dravidian texts from South India. Okay, and South India is actually an area where indigenous snakes are plentiful, but then even in those tantric texts, there is no agreement as to its ultimate effect. There is no common conclusion, or there is no common, there is no common, say, there is no common ground to actually say that Kala Sarpa is either good or bad. Okay, and almost everything else that has, that has otherwise written about Kala Sarpa, it actually comes from the modern era of Vedic astrologers. Okay. So as I was saying, if we acknowledge that the subject of Kala Sarpa is part of an oral tradition, we must at the same time accept that parts of the story or parts of that knowledge may be incomplete. Okay, maybe whatever had been written about Kala Sarpa is only a partial account by these tantrics of South India. Okay, maybe the account was provisional or maybe incomplete, or they expected the student to find out the rest, to put the rest of the information together and derive the complete information. Okay, maybe the knowledge has been encrypted so that common people don't find it. Yes, so there could be a lot of things associated with it which we don't know, and it would actually serve us well if we say that we don't know, instead of denying its existence altogether. Yes. Now Hard Defoe, he is responsible for for introducing jyotish to the American audience. So he once remarked that jyotisha has teeth and it can bite. Okay, that means he was referring to the subject of astrology. He said that the subject of astrology has teeth and it can bite. So what it means, or what he meant, is that jyotisha is not all good news. Okay, it's not all good news. There is a lot of attempt nowadays to say that, okay, this yoga is good, this yoga will ultimately teach you a few things, this and that. But the reality is not all news is good news. Yeah, just like the science of medicine, astrology can also see below the surface and identify perhaps identify a kind of protocol which we might follow to achieve those things which are dear to us. Okay, and what things are dear to us? Our good health, right? The ambitions of our life, those are very dear to us, and astrology can actually give you the tools to achieve those things, right? On the other hand, however, astrology can also reveal the flaws of life. Okay, and what are the flaws? Maybe as an astrologer, you come to a prognosis, you come to a diagnosis that the client will die of a terminal disease, or maybe his or her cherished dreams will evaporate by being unfulfilled. Okay, so as I said, astrology is not all good news. Sometimes the news can be really, really traumatic. It can be really, really bad. Okay, so Kala Sarpa, in my opinion, is it's a potent astrological symbol for this very conjurum. Okay, whether to see life as a blessing or a curse, or whether to use astrology in cultivating hope, or using astrology to create despair. Okay, so in my opinion, although Kala Sarpa exists, okay, what is difficult for the astrologer is to judge it, whether it's a yoga, which is of course a state of fulfillment, or is it a dosha, which is a state of blemish or defect. Okay, now coming to the negations of Kala Sarpa. Kala Sarpa has been negated by most of the prominent astrologers, as I said. For example, Dr. B.V. Raman, who has been responsible for popularizing Vedic astrology in India, in his magnum opus, 300 important combinations, he never discussed Kala Sarpa, even one of the combinations. Okay, Kala Sarpa was not even mentioned in the main body of the book. Okay, so he just gives a footnote, and this is what he said. I quote, Kala Sarpa Yoga is said to be formed if all the planets are situated between Rahu and Ketu. The results are that countries and rulers are destroyed and people become afflicted. Strictly speaking, Kala Sarpa Yoga does not find a place in the classical astrological literature. How this yoga gained currency and gathered a sinister meaning is not clear. So this is B.B. Raman's opinion. Okay, and this opinion by such a great astrologer is actually enough to rubbish all claims that Kala Sarpa can be a yoga, or it can be a dosha, or it needs to be separated. It needs to be studied separately. Okay, so continuing further, Dr. B.V. Raman, he cited the general belief that Kala Sarpa is evil. Okay, and being evil, it restrains all the other good yogas present in the horoscope, which causes the native to live a life of disillusionment, which condemns the native to live a life of reversals and setbacks. Okay, now he also offers B.V. Raman, he also offers examples of some misfortunes, but then he goes on to add that Kala Sarpa has a bright side. Okay, what he says is that, it makes a native very industrious and hardworking and capable of achieving, greatness in one's field or in one's profession. Okay, so this is where he stops. Okay, this is where he stops. But later on, anyone who has read Dr. B.V. Raman and his book, The 300 Important Combinations, would know. Okay, this is where he stops. And again, he goes on towards the end of the book to say that the evil effects of Kala Sarpa are intensified with Rahu below the horizon, but neutralized with Rahu above the horizon. Okay, and he goes on to say that Kala Sarpa is, is nullified even if a single planet is with a node or falls outside the nodal axis. Okay, so these are the remarks that Dr. B.V. Raman gives with reference to Kala Sarpa. Yeah. So what I found is that in his book, Dr. Raman rightly notes that, that no single yoga dictates the outcome of a life, and the overall assessment of a horoscope is required. And this is a disclaimer that all astrologers give, isn't it? A yoga may be a good or bad, but the overall analysis of the horoscope actually determines whether the horoscope is strong or weak. Okay, but then, as you would find solace in the fact that he has at least mentioned Kala Sarpa, this is what he writes towards the end of the book. Okay, he says that, again I quote, Kala Sarpa yoga plays an important role in mundane astrology, but is of not much importance in individual charts. So this is like, this is like putting the last nail in the coffin. Yes, this is like putting the last nail in the coffin of Kala Sarpa. Okay, because, in my opinion, via these words, Dr. Raman may have condemned multiple generations of astrologers to, to dismiss this Kala Sarpa yoga. Okay, so I'm not saying Dr. Raman was right or wrong. I'm just giving you the references as, as what modern astrology speaks about Kala Sarpa. Okay, and anyone who cares to search for Kala Sarpa in modern textbooks, maybe in website articles or blogs, he or she will also be equally confused. Yes, because the field of opinion is equally divided between those who say that Kala Sarpa is a curse and others who consider it as a blessing or inconsequential. Okay, some astrologers also have the opinion that Kala Sarpa has the power to magnify everything good or bad in the chart. Okay. Now, K.N. Rao, in his book Kala Sarpa Yoga, Why Such Fright, he has again, just like Dr. B.V. Raman, he has dismissed the role of Kala Sarpa in natal charts. Okay, suggesting that, whatever bad things happen to the native is a result of other factors and not Kala Sarpa yoga. Okay, perhaps I'm assuming that, part of K.N. Rao's motivation for this book was to counter the practice of Indian astrologers who seem to extract a lot of money from clients in the name of Kala Sarpa. Okay, these astrologers, they exhort their clients to invest in gemstones or maybe pujas or yagyas to nullify the disasters otherwise awaiting them. Okay, so again, if this was the main agenda behind Shri K.N. Rao ji to dismiss the existence of Kala Sarpa, then I don't have anything to say. Okay, but just to say that Kala Sarpa does not exist, it means to chastise some well-meaning astrologers, who can offer genuine remedies or who can offer, genuine solutions based on Kala Sarpa. Yeah. Again, going further, there is this video blogger. Again, I don't have anything against him, but KRS Kapil Raj, he has a YouTube video where he rants against Kala Sarpa. Okay, he does not cite any more rational than that it has become the favorite stick of choice by which astrologers, they scare clients into funding expensive upayas to nullify its effects. Okay, and that is the only, that video actually led many people to claim that yes, Kala Sarpa does not exist. Yes, Kapil Raj is saying that, so Kala Sarpa does not exist. Okay, so thanks to his online popularity, KRS actually has assumed an authority that that perhaps exceeds his logical arguments. Now, he is a very good astrologer. I have nothing against KRS. Okay, he has a lot of good videos, but I'm specifically speaking about this, about this video where whereby he has poisoned another generation of astrologers against the validity of of Kala Sarpa, right? So where does it leave us? Yeah, where does it leave us? Where do we go from here? So in my opinion, the birth chart is already very complicated. Okay, and the presence of Kala Sarpa, it can actually make it more complicated. Okay, but let's not glorify this yoga and let's not condemn it as well. Okay, so in my understanding of this yoga, Kala Sarpa, it's a unique pattern that demands careful analysis rather than casual dismissal. Okay, so in the upcoming classes, I hope to to catch the attention of everyone by providing evidence for some more refined principles, along with some practical guidelines of interpreting Kala Sarpa in the birth chart. Okay, so I look forward to to your participation in the classes that start from the 8th of October, after Durga Puja, that is. And the recordings, of course, will be available on YouTube, but I would encourage you to attend it live. Okay, so if there are any questions, I am more than happy to answer them. Yeah, Shraddha.
Hello, sir. Pranam.
Yeah.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah. Happy Mahalaya to you.
सर मुझे तो मेरे हॉरोस्कोप का तब पता नहीं था, बट 2013 में काल सर्प दोष की पूजा की थी. सो फिर भी बहुत जन बोलते कि इट इज नॉट डन प्रॉपरली एंड नॉट प्रॉपरली, सो उसमें भी बहुत ये रहता. तो अगर कुछ दोष है भी और हम उसकी पूजा परफॉर्म करते, तो हाउ वी कैन नो दैट द काल सर्प दोष इज रिमूव्ड?
See, the thing is that your life will become simplified. Okay, and just a minute. Yeah, Shraddha. So the thing is, अगर आपके पास मतलब अगर आपका काल सर्प बाधा निवारण हुआ है, ठीक है, तो उसमें क्या होएगा, आपका जो लाइफ है वो स्मूथ होने लगेगा. दैट इज द बिगेस्ट इंडिकेटर. ठीक है, आपके जो मतलब काम नहीं बन रहे थे वो काम बनना शुरू होएगा, तो वो एक बड़ा इंडिकेटर है. तो अगर वो नहीं हो रहा है, देन ऑफ कोर्स मतलब आपका पूजा अच्छी तरीके से नहीं हुआ होगा.
ओके सर.
ठीक है.
या, थैंक यू.
Yeah. Okay, then any other questions? Any deeper reason why you took this first class today, not on Saturday? Yeah, because of Sarvapitri. Okay, because of I wanted to start this on Mahalaya because this is about about Rahu and Ketu who rule your ancestors. Okay, so yeah, you've got it right. All right then. So I don't think we have questions. Okay, so I'll see you in the in the foundation class. It begins at 9 o'clock. All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you. Namaste.